What's going on, traders, and welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Watchlist. Before we get going, we're going to switch over to the internet real quick. This is what the Swing Trade newsletter website looks like. So if you're interested in 5 to 10 swing trade ideas, head on over to the site and you can sign up there. We're also on Instagram, so we're at tradebrigade.co. We post a daily trade idea here, and then usually some technical bit of educational information in the afternoon. Last but not least, we are on Discord, so if you're interested in checking out charts and talking about trades and ideas in real time, head on over to that. There'll also be a link in the description there. Without further ado, we're going to get into the analysis. As always, we have the broad market, SPY, the Qs, and IWM. After that, we look at some companies. We have Apple, Netflix, Tesla, Alibaba, Facebook, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Amazon. Alrighty, so we just finished up the month of November, so we're going to start off on the monthly chart here on SPY, and we're not going to go through all of them just because they're all looking very similar. You can see we just have a purely bullish bar, which is no surprise if you were paying attention to the intraday and even just the weekly action, almost straight up towards, during this month. So no surprises here. We can sort of speculate about what type of bar will come next. You can see when we've had a bar about this size, if we look back here, we had a nice pullback after this one. However, this one here, similar in size and nature, we had a nice hanging man come after that. Same thing here, little hanging man. This one caused a pullback. So just, those aren't very exact ways of measuring what might happen, but just something to keep in mind. We are going to check out the IWM monthly, though, just because that one's slightly different. We're just going to do this one now. You can see it's purely green, but it's going right up through our resistance zone, which is important to note. So that to me is a really good sign of strength. We'll talk about it more on the daily when we get into it, but just know that the weekly bar, or monthly bar rather, on IWM is a very bullish one, especially following this nice hammer off of support. Dropping back down to our SPY weekly chart, so going one level down and looking at the weekly, you can see, almost the same thing, a nice green week with a small pullback at the top, but I wouldn't really attribute that to much other than just low volume and Thanksgiving chop. So you can see the volume there for the week is much lower than everything else preceding it. We do have a new all-time high, which we'll mark off there at 315.48. A little low there, but it'll just give us a nice reminder. Let's hop into the daily. So the daily, in my opinion, has now just proven that it's that much more bullish. We did have a nice gap up. We held the gap, and now we just are barely pulling back on that Friday session, which is a shortened session, which I wouldn't really count too much. And we're slightly pulling back off of our all-time high. That does leave 3 unfilled gaps below us. We have a gap here, a gap in the chart here. This one was filled by this tail here. But then we do have this major gap way down here, which could ultimately fill if there was some huge market reversal. I only point these things out to keep you aware, not to sort of insinuate that some big crash is going to happen. So don't think I'm trying to say that at all. We do have solid support below us here at 309.65. You can see all these touches as resistance, and then once we got above it, 3 nice hammers in a row, forming a nice bottoming pattern here, and then we had a green week to follow. So that would be my first stop on the way down, should we see any sort of big pullback coming into the week after Thanksgiving. However, a lot of people are going to be spending money. It's the holiday season. This is the time where a lot of money gets injected into the economy. I wouldn't be surprised to see things continue to push higher in the month of December, and then who knows how the start of 2020 will be. Very similar here on the Qs. This gap is still there, but much smaller than what we have on SPY. Also, our pullback from Friday's action is a little bit lower than what we have, but we do have a new all-time high, so we'll mark that off. Going anything higher than that, similar to SPY, I didn't mention it, but you guys should know by now, it's $1.5 into blue sky territories. Our support is mapped out below us. We're looking for a bounce off of either this high. If that doesn't hold, then we have a very similar pattern. What was happening on SPY here, the 3 hammers, and that's at $200.73. So keep that in mind. Anything lower, which we ideally don't want to see. This is sort of the key level that we want to hold right now. Even $200, the whole dollar mark. If we held that, that would be nice. But should we break down below, everything's mapped out for us. We have 197.90, 195.25, just about 50 SMAs coinciding with that one, which will continue to rise, obviously, as we keep moving in the upwards direction. So just keep on looking for these super supports where the 50 SMA coincides with a support level, and that should be either a good entry or a good place to target on any sort of major pullback. Alrighty, IWM, which has been one of my favorites recently, just because of how nicely this chart pattern played out. We were talking about this bull flag that had formed, literally a perfect flag and pole here, and then it broke out, big massive breakout on, what would that have been, Tuesday, after a nice hammer here. So Tuesday, or Monday rather, boom, up in the upwards direction. We're, seeing a little bit of resistance now, but that's not unheard of for having a nice big IWM just looks amazing to me. You can see we have this perfect bull flag. We have the pole and then the flag consolidation here. When we broke out on this hammer, boom, great green day, straight to the upside. Now we're seeing a little bit of consolidation and, a little bit of hesitance after breaking through this last final resistance piece. And that's no surprise. So one thing I did want to try out on this one just for the heck of it is trying out the fib extensions. If we do something like this, let's sort of see. Oh my God, too good to be true. So if you were using Fibonacci extensions, you can see that was the 38.2 that we went right up to and kissed, and is perfect. We're seeing a little pullback off of it now. Should we continue and go up to the 61.8, we're looking at 166.69 as our sort of next point of resistance. You could call this another bull flag here, where we have the pull and the pullback is starting to happen here. So we're looking for a real break over this 163.04 or the high of this green candle here. So that's what I would watch out for here. Anything down below is really well mapped out for us. We have all of these points which should act as support on the way back through them to the downside. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying the video so far, or if you find these watch list videos helpful, give them a thumbs up. It helps me out a bunch and I would genuinely appreciate it. Also subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified every time these go up on a Saturday. So on Apple, we are looking at a new all-time high right up here at the whole dollar, 268. Went right to it and got rejected, saw a little pullback, and now we're kissing it again. So I would call this a pressure cooker, where we have price knocking on the price level from below 268. Any sort of breakout above with this consolidation here should push it up quite nicely, I would imagine, into at least 270 or higher. That's not very far away, as you can see here, but 270 or higher on Apple would be my target. We have our support mapped out. If we get a double top here, we're looking for a pullback into 260. 41 based on this level here. Anything lower, we have 255.64, and this is I would say this is sort of the key level here at let's just call it 250 to play a round number. We want to see Apple maintain above 250. If it pulls back into it, that's fine. You can see we're still on quite a nice uptrend, even if we pulled back into this trend line, but that should happen around 250 and then make a move up after that. Should we get any sort of major pullback. I do think, though, that the move is bullish here, and we do see a move over this 268 resistance. Once we break out above it, like I said, at least 270, if not 275, just based on the magnitude and range of what Apple has been doing recently. So Netflix is really starting to show some bullishness. You can see we've pretty much rounded out and are forming a cup here. Next thing I would want to see is a breakout over this level here at 316.16. That's a very key level. You can see a couple touches in here, 3, and now 1, 2, 3, 4 touches in a row here. So I think if we get a breakout above this, again, it's pressure cooker pattern forming. I think the move could be up to the 200 SMA here. That's right around 329. If we get higher than that, then we're looking at this here price level here, which I would call it a little bit lower just based on this high back here, but that's right around 338.12. So I just call it 338. Let's see what this is. It's 336. So $2 there in between. Netflix can move that quite easily. So keep an eye out for that level should the price get above the 200 SMA. But I would look for a small intraday pullback off of the 200 SMA level if we do get that breakout, and then look for that move. So anything to the downside, though, should we fail here, we do have supports mapped out. Anything lower, and we should sort of chop into this range between 310 and 316, which is sort of what's happening, a nice little consolidation here. But if we break down below that, then we're looking for support right around $300, the whole dollar mark. So Tesla, kind of all over the place with the new truck announcement and what's been going on. You can see we're trying to form a base here at some previous structure. So we've had a choppy week. Now we're seeing a bit of a hammer here, a little indecision prior to that. So whether or not it wants to break down or not, that's sort of anyone's guess. On this one, I'm more reactive than predictive, so I would react if we broke down below this support level at 328. I would react by targeting the 310. Should we make a move to the upside, I would react by looking for a move to 340. So that's sort of how I would play Tesla. There's no real way of knowing on this one. Play intraday supports and resistances. You can just see the massive volume taper here during Thanksgiving week. So, take what happened this week with a grain of salt, and really, depending on where the volume goes over the course of the next week, will depend and sort of tell where Tesla should end up in the future. So we have our supports and resistances mapped out. Play this one as a reactive nature. Alrighty, Alibaba. I traded this one on Friday, even though I told myself I wasn't going to trade on Friday, and I ended up getting caught in the chop. It just sort of went down and then hovered around the open for the rest of the day. So not very exciting. This one did make a nice move up, holding the gap. But again, this is on Thanksgiving volume here, so whether or not it holds going into this week, no one can say for sure. We do have the gap below us, so if that does start to fill, target 195 on the gap fill there and pullback. That would be a nice pullback to get into and continue to play this upward move out of this longer-term symmetrical triangle. So that's that. Anything to the upside, you can see we're sort of getting rejected right at a $200 resistance level. So let's just draw that sort of in there. It's almost 201 actually, now that I see it there. But so 201 acting as resistance. Anything prior to that, you see we have to go way back. Let's draw in our all-time high just so we're aware of sort of where that's at. That's at 211.73. You can see based on the trajectory of what's happening here, should we see the pullback and consolidation in this zone, maybe we get the gap fill, consolidate for a little while, it's very likely that we could head back up to 211.73. So that's one bullish play. Should we break down, we have 195 as support and then 188. You can see all these touches and sort of chop in here. Should we go lower than that, I would say the breakout over the symmetrical triangle here might be back testing the level here on a longer term time frame. So look for a move back down to this dotted line. Anything lower really is the moving averages and this sort of price level in between 181 and 179. That's quite the pullback. Do I think that's necessarily going to happen in a week? No, not necessarily, but it's something to keep in mind. Facebook, a nice inverted hammer here left on Friday's action. So whether or not we put too much import into it is, you know, who knows? It's, again, the Thanksgiving season, so we'll see what happens on Monday. But I would expect a bit of a pullback, maybe back down into this 198.61 support based on, you know, resistance sort of around here, chopped through, resistance, turned into support here. So if we pull back into it, that would be nice. A little consolidation and then a move up. But you can see we're staying in our triangle quite nicely, respecting the upper level, lower level. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get the pullback and maybe even get into the lower level, confirm that as support, and then keep chopping up into the upper level and resistance here at 205.39. So based on the candle, I would expect a pullback come Monday. However, I do think we're playing quite nicely in between these two trend lines. Nvidia does have this interesting gap down below to fill. You can see we're sort of right at a point where if we break down below, it's probably likely that we do fill the gap, at least to the high of the candle, high being at 212.96. So keep that in mind if we break down below 215.87. However, we do have sort of this consolidation happening here where all of these are really inside bars of this green bullish bar. So if we break out above, I could see doubling the size of this bar, which would put us, you know, over this resistance level and likely somewhere around 225, 225.50, somewhere in there. So keep that in mind on a move to the upwards direction. We're sort of going to be in blue sky territory, so whole and half dollars, but approximately 225 based on the size of this bar and the consolidation here. Again, we talked about the gap fill as support here. Anything lower, we really want to see 206 hold based on all this sort of support rather that we had when we were going through it here. Anything lower than that, the uptrend might be you know, not as strong, but we would want to see 197.73 and the 50 SMA hold up as support as a last ditch. Microsoft, again, just charging in the upwards direction, making new highs all the time. So we're going to mark that one off there. That's at 152.50. That is going to act as resistance on any sort of move back up to it. You can see on Friday we pulled back off of that level a little bit. Zoom in a little bit more. So if we confirm this as support here at 151.15, that would be a good sign. You can see it's our previous high from this area. Got rejected there, and then when we broke out above it, we saw that nice little green, and now we're consolidating. So should act as support at 151.15. Anything lower, we're looking at the lows of these sort of nice little reversal candles, these hammers. That's right around 148.51. And by then, I think we would be getting into this support trend line. So that would be a great entry, in my opinion, to catch on and, you know, keep riding up the Microsoft train. It's really just done nothing but go up for the past year, really. So strong mover here. Let's see what 2020 brings. Let's finish 2019 strong on it. Last but not least, everyone's favorite, we have Amazon. You can see we have a double tweezer top in this area here at 1824. We didn't even make it up into our 1833 resistance level, so I thought the clean break of the 200 SMA and this price level would at least get us there, but it didn't happen. Seeing a pullback now. We did close at the lows on Friday, but that's a low volume day. Who knows what will happen come Cyber Monday? Will people just buy up Amazon thinking that people are spending a ton on Amazon? Who knows? Maybe. I do think that a move down to the 50 SMA would be the target should the continued selling happen. This is very emotional buying. You can see it gapped up multiple times here and then, you know, just ran for the rest of the day. So maybe a pullback into the 50 SMA. Depends on how weak the buyers are here. If they're longer term buyers, maybe they're going to, you know, hold their ground and continue to push prices up. If not, though, 50 SMA on the downside and then 1751. We've talked about how it just sort of has been chopping around recently, so just keep those same levels in mind. If it does pull back a little bit and then makes a move to the upside, again, we're going to be looking for that break of the 1812 level, which is this resistance here, which it couldn't really hold here. Maybe this was a fake break and then selling off Friday. But if we get back above, we want to see a clearing of the double tweezer top and then make a move into our 1833 resistance as historical resistance here. You can see all these touches in here. And then if it really gets some legs, maybe all the way up to 1850. just based on this fake break here to the upside then. So keep that in mind. Again, sort of just range bound. I don't know what will really happen on Monday with Cyber Monday, but maybe there will be some volatility here. Maybe there won't. Who knows? Play this one by ear. And that's going to wrap it up. That's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Weekly Watchlist. If you enjoyed, leave it a thumbs up. If you're interested in the Swing Trade Ideas newsletter, sign up for that in the description. Join us on Instagram and as well as the Discord to chat in real time about what's going on in the stock market. And with that, I wish you a green trading week.